He loves the data. He makes informed opinions after going through all the crosstabs. And specifically, but not exclusively, he has been following Latino trends, not a Latino trend, because it's very important. There's no such thing as one Latino community in America. And his prediction was Donald Trump, all of it, the MAGA could sink if the Latinos that went from 2024, if they deflect. And he said a couple of months ago on this show, look at two issues, the economy and immigration. If Donald Trump and MAGA overreaches on those two issues, this big Latino trend that everyone talks about going to MAGA, it'll reverse just like that, and it'll go back to the 2016 numbers. Well, voila, that's happening. So all these numbers have come out. The poll numbers have come out. The Epstein file crisis, and Mike was tweeting a lot of stuff over the weekend, and I was telling Mike that right as I was about to go and tweet, I saw Mike had tweeted the same exact thing, so I just retweeted him. And then after I tweeted something, I saw, oh, Mike retweeted later, so we were in sync. So let's do first a top-level view, eagle's eye view of the numbers. And I think let's then drill down on the crosstabs. And I think what we're going to see, folks, is it ain't looking good for Trump and MAGA. It ain't looking good when it comes to the economy, Epstein, and even immigration, and even, folks, white voters. We're going to dig into it.
Yeah.
Eagle eye view first and foremost with all the numbers that you saw over the past week, Mike.
Well, thanks, Waj, for having me. I love being with you. You know that. We're just in sync on a lot of these things as they're developing, especially the numbers. Let me set the table by saying this: Donald Trump is hitting lows that he has never hit, even in his first term. In the depths of COVID, when people were dying by the tens of thousands, he was not as low as he is hitting now. And as I'm going to predict, he's going to go even lower, which may not sound like a big deal, but you have to remember with somebody who has had such a strong, stable base of MAGA support, that means he's cutting into the MAGA bone right now. Like he's now seeing defections from MAGA, not just your Republican, country club Republicans that want a tax cut, whatever, however many of those are left. This is now MAGA now is getting you know they're cutting into the bone. So why? Well, look, you set it up perfectly. There's really literally nothing going well for the administration right now. Like nothing. It's extremely hard to see where there's anything positive happening. And I want to set up the midterms that we're heading into compared to Donald Trump's first midterms because they're the best comparison. But it's worse now, and I want to explain why.
Yeah.
A lot of what happened on Tuesday showed a remarkable shift on two core strengths that Trump had, which was immigration and the economy. The economy is still far, far worse in terms of perspective, and that was his biggest strength in November, just a year ago this month, when he in the November elections. Immigration has flipped on him too by a wide margin, but not nearly as much as the economy has. And it's very hard, especially when you're talking about young people, younger males, and Latinos specifically, to isolate those two of them. They are really both very important issues in the Latino community specifically, and with young people broadly. But there is there is clear evidence that it's the souring economy that is what is driving these dramatic 25% vote shifts in Passaic, County, or Union City, New Jersey, or Manassas, Virginia. I just got off the phone with a Miami Herald reporter about 30 minutes ago talking about the Republicans losing the mayorship in Miami. Trump had just endorsed the Republican mayor a couple of days ago. Runoff is in a couple of weeks. Good chance a Trump endorsed mayor candidate in his own backyard is going to lose amongst core Republican, Cuban, hardcore folks. All of these are signs, again, that we're witnessing not just a loss of independence, which he lost about 3 months ago, but he's losing hardcore Republican base voters. The glue was, and sorry if I'm all over the place, but I know we're going to spend some time on this. The glue here, the trust, this inviolable, indelible, trust me, I'm the only one who can fix it. I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, nobody cares, was the Epstein glue. And on Tuesday, there's going to be this vote, presumably sometime this week, where there were going to be upwards of 100 Republican voters defecting. Trump, of course, gets out front of it by 3 days ago now, 2 or 3 days ago, reopening a closed investigation so that he doesn't have to release all of the files because he knows he's going to lose the vote. And then he tells Republicans to vote for it. So it looks like they're for it, even though they're not going to release all of the data. Now, the American public's not stupid. They're going to see this, but he's a desperate, cornered animal, and he's got very, very few options, and they're shrinking. Politically, this is going to get worse for him. The Epstein stuff is that glue that is opening the door for people to realize, yes, the price of everything is going up. Yes, there's a mess on the international scene. Yes, healthcare costs are going to go up. No, it's not Joe Biden. And the existential problem, and I hate that word, but it is an existential problem for him, is once these people feel that they've been lied to on something big, all of the lies start to cascade. So
The
what
house
is
of cards falls.
once the house of cards falls, and it's not going to be a small drop in 3 or 4%, you're going to see a complete balkanization of the American right because there's no ideological underpinning of the Republican Party anymore. It's all personality. Look at the fight that is happening even in the Democratic Party. There's a fight between, is Stanberger right or is Mamdani right? Okay, that's healthy. We talked about this last time. Is it more right? Is it more left? Is it more center? Fine. Those are good, healthy debates to have. On the right, is Charlie Kirk right, or is it Ben Shapiro's right, or is it Laura Loomer's right? It's all of these personalities on social media that are simply angling for larger followings and larger proximity to power with Donald Trump. Once Trump goes away, in one way, shape, or form, you're going to start to see an atomization of the right. It's not going to be a typical center right, moderate conservative split. Those days are gone. It's going to literally atomize in every different direction. And that's going to really change the calculus of how Trump's lame duck presidency is going to go forward, if it goes forward, how it limps forward after the midterms, which I think are going to be very, very bad, at least at this point, unless there's a remarkable turnaround. Because, and I'll end on this, Watch, sorry I've been talking so much,
No, no, that's great.
because the economy is getting worse. And remember, 2018, the year that we first started talking about a big blue wave, this was that Trump lost 40 seats. The economy was really good. The economy was
Yep.
doing great. And he still lost a historic number of seats. His numbers are way below that right now. The Epstein stuff is going to bring those way further in his own base. Everybody's reacting to the economy broadly. The economy is not going to be better by 1 year from now. It's going to be worse. Prices are going to be higher. And all of this is creating this perfect storm. The storm is coming, as they say in Q World, and it's going to be an unmitigated disaster unless the trajectory changes. And I don't see anything changing that. Imagine, as tough as it is right now for Republicans after last Tuesday's elections, what does the post midterm disaster look like if Democrats get both the House and the Senate? There's no heir to this cult. There is no heir. And in fact, there's no leader anymore when Donald Trump is losing Republican votes in the House on Epstein to the point where he has to open up this fake investigation on a closed investigation to protect himself, while then also trying to pretend like he told Republicans to do what they were going to do anyway. He's not in control anymore. That's the most important takeaway. And when there's nobody that can seize the mantle of an ideology in a party, it does nothing but scatter with the winds in every possible direction.
You was great table setting. You talked about three key issues that I want to dive into one by one: Epstein, the economy, and immigration. Before we do that, I just want to let people know Donald Trump has never cracked 50. Donald Trump doesn't have this remarkable mandate. Even in the 2024 election, 49. He barely beats Kamala Harris by about 1.4 points. Steve Bannon predicted 10 years ago, we can rule for the next 40 years. I'm sure you remember this, Mike. If we just gobble up the whites, enough of the whites, the rural whites, and peel away from some Latinos, Asians, and black folks, he goes, that's all we need. And then, you throw in a little bit of gerrymandering and disinformation and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So, folks, that's what he got in 2024. The majority of whites, Sorry to say, Democrats, they have abandoned you since the 1960s, as Lyndon B. Johnson predicted. Even now, 2025, majority of whites did not go for Mamdani, did not go for Spanberger, they did not go for Mickey Sherrill. It was the rest of us, and about 45% of whites. All right. So he cannot afford to lose any whites. I saw one data that about 5% of the whites who voted for Trump have decided not to support Republicans in the midterm elections. 5%. It's not mean they're going to go for Democrats, but they might just stay out.
Without. Yeah.
That is, they can't afford that.
Yep.
When it comes to Latino voters, you've been saying this for a while, Mike, because this has been your expertise. You told me even if you look at one factor and one factor alone, if he loses the Latino voters that he got in 2024 and they go back to 2016 numbers, that alone might be enough to wipe out the Republicans. In addition to that, they've lost now all the young voters who, first time voters who grew up with Trumpism, like, what the F is this? They're gone. And then you saw the 2025 election just a couple of weeks ago. If we don't know if it'll hold, but we assume yes. A lot of the Asian voters who left, a majority of them still went for Democrat, but still he peeled off a few percentage. They went back. And then, Mike, we still haven't talked about a third of American voters who are people who can vote and don't vote, just to mobilize people off their ass to vote. All right. So this is what we're dealing with right now, folks. He, according to CNN, Harry Enton, is negative 35 on the Epstein files. And that was a couple of days ago. I agree with you that him announcing that bullshit yesterday was not him all of a sudden saying release the Epstein files, because, folks, facts matter. Donald Trump can release the Epstein files. He can pick up the phone right now to Pam Bondi, and who's his reek, and say, DOJ, release the Epstein files. Khalas, that's it. Forget the votes.
Yeah.
He is behaving like a man who is the opposite of innocent. He has done everything that a guilty man would do in what I call the biggest political cover up in modern history when it comes to the Epstein files, because based on what we know, what we've heard, he is most likely all up in those files. Even with what we know, what the emails that were released, his name is number one. There have been FBI agents, thousands of them, tasked with literally redacting his name. All right. There's so many leaks here, Mike, that he can't plug. The survivors, the thousands of FBI agents who have seen this stuff with their own eyes, the Epstein estate that has given the documents already to the Democrats, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Right. So let's start with the Epstein files, the fallout, and what's been happening over the past 2 days. It's wild, where Trump has turned on Massey. He's turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene. They have stood firm, and now you're seeing the cracks and you've seen the numbers. Let's start with Epstein. Your take.
So a great setup. Look, this is really, really critical. And it's why, when this first started bubbling up, I was saying this isn't going to go away because, again, the right way to understand the politics of Epstein is this is the glue that has held all the weirdos on the right together. And as it started to kind of melt away, you started to see this really big civil war starting to happen. In the Heritage Foundation between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Ben Shapiro. Like, all this is not happening coincidentally. This is because the only thing holding this coalition together has been fealty to Donald Trump. And when you see a Marjorie Taylor Greene or a Tom Massey start to back off of him, now Don Bacon, and I like Don a lot, but boy, he needed to show a little bit more courage, especially knowing where this was all going. He's finally starting to show some of that courage. Courage gets easier when more voices join the choir, and I'll get to that in a second because it's important on how the resistance forces and amplifies the division in the MAGA civil war right now. That's probably one of the best things that you can do because Trump is realizing, okay, wait a second, now I can't hold this back. I've got two options. The first option is what he essentially took, which is reopen the investigation that Pam Bondi already said is closed. Because if I open the investigation, then by law, I don't have to release all of the files. I can say there's an open investigation, and legally, we're not allowed to release everything. He'll put out a few more things, files that don't incriminate him, but they're not going to believe that. No one's going to believe that. He's going to do that. And then the second is flip it to the Senate and try to have the Senate hold for him. That's another thing that there's going to have to be a lot of pressure put on these Republicans in the Senate, and I think you're probably going to start to see some breaks on that.
Yep.
If not, then I think these people are putting themselves in jeopardy because, as was accurately explained by Tom Massey, Congressman Republican Tom Massey himself, Trump's going to go away. in a couple of years. He will for a whole lot of reasons. But if you vote to protect a pedophile, that will exist for your entire career. You will never ever be able to get away from that stain. And Trump's cash day is not going to last for another 24 months the way that it has. I'm not saying there won't always be a Trump presence. There will be, but it's not going to be what it was in this aftermath. So okay, so what does that mean politically? Well, again, the key right here now, and normally we say never interfere with the enemy while he's in the process of destroying himself. That's usually true, except what we're witnessing right now is not anything cohesive holding this together. He is the glue, remember, of all the crazy. The Maha folks used to be kind of, a very different constituency than the America Firsters and anti-globalists and those paranoids. They're all in the same party. But when Trump is gone, again, this thing shatters, and that shattering is what is happening. So amplify those divisions, and then one final thing, Watch. I'm going to flip it back to you. This is where it gets boring, but it's so damn important. There has to be a message on fixing the economy. If Democrats have just 2 or 3 bullet points on what they will do once they take power, you're talking about an additional 8 to 11 point spread.
Wow.
It's a breaking open. It's like a ninth inning 3-run home run in a tied game. It blows the game open. That's where Democrats need to be focused, because Trump is going to do more damage to himself on the Epstein files than the Democrats are going to be able to do to him. He has no choice. He's putting everyone in the Republican Party in an extremely bad position where they've got to choose between continuing to back Trump or realizing this guy's gone, he's a lame duck, the party's over, ditch him and distance from him as quick as we can so that I can save my own career and that the party isn't in complete shambles heading into not only 2026, but the 2028 presidential election.
I want to get to the economy in 1 second, because I think that is and the weakness for Democrats, in my opinion, which we'll talk about. I think that Donald Trump's two Achilles cankles, I've been saying it for a while, are the Epstein files and the economy. And you use the Epstein files to weaken them as a
Yeah.
divide and conquer, and you increase the fissures, and then you really drive home the stake with a popular economic message, right? Epstein is the scandal. Republicans have been fantastic on creating scandals or butter emails, Watergate, it works, folks. It causes, it stays in the news. It hurts the reputation and the integrity of the candidate, right? It's a scandal, right? It feeds the news waves. It's part of the culture war. Republicans are fantastic on this. So that's your Epstein files. Also, I would say accountability. Not only do you go after Epstein and Trump, but you also go after, wait for it, the billionaires. And this is where, tying it then to the economy, I feel like Democrats, the reason why you're seeing what I refer to it as a civil war in the Democratic Party is, like you said, you have you have a slugger up. It's bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, and you can hit a freaking grand slam. And Democrats are like, let me bunt it. And the reason why they bunt it is because they're still unwilling, and I'm talking about they, meaning the Democratic establishment, is still unwilling to untether themselves from the teat of corporate power. And you mentioned an example. I think there's some data points. Anyone who says this, they're like, you're being too this and too that, and we have to go centrist, 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 centrist. I'm like, you're misreading the people, you're misreading the moment. Can you give us an example of the economy? And I think the shift, and what would be a more popular shift on the economy, meaning embracing that progressive anti oligarchy message. And let's just use the data point of this Democratic internal poll that showed that AOC's message on Prop 50
Yeah.
beat Gavin Newsom's message on Prop 50, because I think that's a really good example that we can use as a microcosm for a big picture.
Yeah, well, that's a great setup, and that's a perfect example. I think we both kind of were tweeting and talking about that because it's absolutely right. I'm going to tweak this a little bit, though, because I think even though you and I come to the exact same conclusion, our analysis is about 2% off. So we agree 98%. But here's what I believe. I believe that the right-left spectrum doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
I don't believe that we're having a discussion about the role of government in terms of do we need bigger or less government. We're talking about haves and have-nots now. we're talking about insider versus outsider, and we're talking about those with influence and those without influence.
I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. And when we say progressive, really we're kind of almost just saying populist, right?
That's yeah.
Because a lot of what even Donald Trump is saying is kind of progressive populism because it's anti-establishment, it's anti-corporate for sure, but it's anti-institutional in a lot of ways because the institutions aren't working, and the establishment Democrats are trying to balance this need to be the protectors of democracy, as they call it, which means protect all of these institutions when the institutions aren't serving the working class. So when a Bernie or an AOC or a Mamdani start to say that, like the emperor has no clothes here, like we need a bigger fix than just keeping things at the status quo. It's resonant because they're just saying people can't afford stuff. Like we talk about all these scandals in the Trump era, and appropriately so. But my God, there's an economic crisis for working class people right now. It's like car repossessions are at an all-time high right
Yep.
now. Like rents are through the roof. I don't know how young people, working class people, I don't know how people are making it. Like it's just it's brutal. I've got 3 children who are in their 20s, and I don't know what to tell them other than none of this stuff works. So the only politicians that are saying that, and the politicians from the left are saying it constructively with policy. Donald Trump was saying it destructively, like blame, get pissed, be angry, fine. He channeled that for a while. But at a certain point, after a child throws a tantrum and cries and kicks and screams, they exhaust themselves. And it's like, okay, now what am I going to do? We got to fix stuff. And you have people on the far left, agree with them or not, or at least talking about it, while the Democratic establishment is saying it's not happening. Don't believe your lying eyes. If we just go back to the way it was, everything is going to be fine. And so,
Restoration, not reformation.
yeah, well said. Well said. And so that precisely. And so that I think is the real dividing line in American politics is people who believe that if we just got back to the old way of doing things, everything would be fine. And those that are growing in number saying, no, it was never fine, and it's not fine now. And this is the opportunity because it's failing all around us to do something dramatically different. So I think we're saying this, like I said, we're saying 98% the same thing.
I actually, I don't think we're even 90%. I think we're the same. I was just making an example
Yeah.
through a political lens. But yesterday, 2 days ago, I was at Georgetown, and it was a really great event. It was all these Pakistani Americans, all these generations coming together, trying to mobilize, and it was a first of its kind type of conclave. And the kids asked, what do you think is the number one question across the board, the number one problem? And I said the number one problem is the struggle between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the 99% versus the 1%, and young people are realizing the 1% are gobbling up all their milkshake. And as a result, that 1% is creating a oligarchy and fascism, and the rest of us now have to organize and mobilize against the 1%. That to me is the narrative. 99% versus the 1%. The rest against the oligarchy. They're drinking our milkshake. We have to stop them from drinking our milkshake. And if we can, then the rest of us, all of us, can have an economically secure, better future for ourselves and our children and our grandparents. That to me is your home run. That to me is your soft
Yeah.
meatball down the middle, 50 miles per hour to Barry Bonds. Anyone who does that, you knock it out of the park, Mike. But
Yeah.
the fact that the Democrats are unable to do this reveals to me that there is a fissure in the Democratic movement. You saw that with Mamdani. They still haven't embraced Mamdani. Schumer still hasn't embraced Mamdani. Gillibrand still hasn't embraced Mamdani. The utter refusal to embrace reform, the utter refusal to look at the reality in your face. And folks, it's not just the last 2 years. Going to Mike's point, we've talked about this before. I think it's really important. This has been happening for a decade. Donald Trump he's a bullshit artist, but he ran as an anti-establishment candidate. I think people need to remember that, Mike, because it's been 10 years. He is the establishment. He's always been the establishment. He ran, though, as specifically, I remember the analogy, bulldozer. I will bulldoze the establishment and the institution. And remember, people are like, yes, we need to get rid of this shit. Bring it all down. Drain the swamp. Bernie also did it, but from a type of different angle, is that the institutions are corrupt, the rich are getting
Correct.
rich, and we need reform. And and
Yes.
and, and tying into the point of the AOC message, and I'll get back to Mike on this. I just want to remind people because it's bear reminding because you get gaslit from horribly overpaid corporate consultants who don't want you to believe the evidence of your eyes. They still say Mamdani is a one-up. They still say Trump is an aberration. They still say there's no such thing as economic populism. They're still selling capitalism to young people. Look at all the poll numbers and data. Young people, and I can't blame them, Mike. They're like, what has capitalism done for me? All right, you got democratic socialism? Sure. You got MAGA? Sure. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. Whatever makes my life better. That's where young people are, right? And so you're seeing now this lane, wide open lane that works for anybody. And even Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you notice, she's come on board with this because she
Yep.
realizes, I see where the winds are shifting. Let me tie my white nationalism to economic populism. This takes me to Prop 50. And the Democrats are trying to promote the Chuck Schumers, the Hakeem Jeffries, even the Gavin Newsoms. If I may, real quick, my prediction: why I think Gavin Newsom, if he doesn't shift, will not be your Democratic warrior in 2028. I think he has some weak spots, Mike. His weak spot is on Israel. He still goes imdi, 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 right? He doesn't see where the wind is blowing, still tied to APAC. Same with Pete Buttigieg and Cory Booker. And I see he flips on the woke and immigrants. He goes where the wind is blowing. I want to remind people that he's the one who invited Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon on his podcast. And then the third one, he still hasn't detached himself from the oligarchy and the Silicon Valley bros. And you see that impact his messaging. Now, compare and contrast that to AUC's ad and talk to us about why I'm focusing on this and what that says and why that kind of might prove what you and me are saying.
So some testing was done on all of the ads for the Yes on 50 campaign, and the one that tested the best was when AOC talks about the cost of healthcare and economic pocketbook issues. Now, some people will say, what does that have to do with redistricting? The answer is, I mean, it is kind of a bank shot, but people don't understand what redistricting, real people don't understand what redistricting is in the first place. But what they do know is that they're angry at what's going on with the economy here in the country. The only ad that the Yes on 50 campaign ran, the only one that spoke to the economy. Remember, they spent tens of millions of dollars. Only one spoke to the economy, and it was AOC on these economic pocketbook issues. It tested by far the best. Not because she's more popular than the others, she may or may not be, but the message was what was resonating. And to me, and I've been going back and forth with some of the consultants who worked on the Yes on 50 campaign, saying Gavin Newsom, to your point, Waj, Gavin Newsom needs to make a pivot. And I think by the way, I think Gavin Newsom is a generational talent. I think he's remarkably good, but he has some weak spots. You just pointed some out there. This guy is not, there's not going to be a coronation here. This is going to be a long slog battle to the nomination, and there should be. That makes your nominee stronger. You want to have a big fight. But one of the weakest is working class people aren't doing great in California right now. And rather than running ads speaking to that, where Gavin Newsom could now be championing some of these issues that AOC was talking about in her ad, they're talking about some of these oldies but goodies that were never really resonant anyway with the working class and the poor. And they're trying to say, well, let's just lean into those issues again because we won overwhelmingly. So clearly they're working. Well, no. Look, this wave, and it was a blue wave on Tuesday night, didn't it just hit New Jersey and Virginia, where they were talking about more economic pocketbook issues, but certainly New York City, where it clearly happened. Hell, Waj, it happened in Miami.
Yep.
The Republicans have been swept out of the mayoralty in Miami,
Georgia,
like
Mississippi.
Mississippi, like Georgia, Mississippi, New Hampshire. Like, come on, guys, stop it. So, yeah, there has to be a shift made. Gavin has not made that shift yet. Knowing him the way that I do, he will. I think he'll be effective at it. Does it stick? I don't know. It's way too early for those prognostications. But the point you're making and the point that I'm agreeing with, trying to supplement, is unless you're talking about those kitchen table economic populist pocketbook issues, don't even apply. Don't even apply because no one's listening to you and no one believes you. And there has to be an acknowledgement, an overt acknowledgement that the system has failed. And when I say the system, I mean it's not blue or red. It's not. It's have and have not.
There you go.
when you say the system is failing, you mean the system is failing. It's not a buzzword to score partisan points. That's why you're seeing these wild swings back and forth of Latinos, working class young people. They're saying, I don't believe the bullshit any of the red corporate guys or the blue corporate guys are selling because it's not working. So if I have to choose about on the lesser of two evils, whoever is the evil guy is the guy sitting in power. That's not enough to create a movement. That's not enough to create a party. That's enough to win in an off cycle. And you leave yourself even more susceptible to the swing back in 2028 and you get nothing accomplished. That's my fear of what's going to happen is the Democrats won't learn the lesson of 2018 when they win a historic blue wave, but then the next three elections see a historic rightward shift of Latinos, young and working class people because they believe they had a mandate. They didn't. They're not doing anything transformational to change people's lives, and unless you do, you're not going to have anything lasting. You'll go from Pyrrhic victory to another Pyrrhic victory 8 years later with a ton of losses in between, and that's what's happening right now.
And that's my fear, and I don't trust them at all. I'm old enough to remember when they had a chance to hold these people accountable, the establishment accountable for creating the greatest economic crisis of my time, the 2008 subprime crisis, too big to fail. And then in 2016 and 2020, when you had a chance again, restoration, not reformation, restoration, not reformation. And they will through, and I'll give them Mamdani. Great example, right in front of us, the last couple of weeks. They threw everything and the kitchen sink and the Larry Summers and billionaire money to destroy him. And even now, they say it's a one off. It's a one off. It's a one off. Trust us. Shut up. Shut up and trust us. You better go back to restorate. Trust us. And young people are like, no, I don't give a shit. Democratic social? Why not? Sure. I'll try a democratic socialist. And some of these same people, 2024, last year, I mean, it bothered me, it pained me that this happened, but they were like, I'll try a MAGA. Why not? Like, whatever worked. Okay, I'll try an alien. Alien? Hello, alien. Okay, do you promise an affordable life? All right, conqueror from another planet. Give me better healthcare, right? I feel that's what we're seeing right now for the past 10 years is people are done with the establishment. They want reformation, not restoration. The Democratic establishment is going to do everything to destroy anyone and everyone who brings out a reformist idea. I'll give you an example. Them trying to crush Mamdani, them trying to crush AOC, them trying to crush Bernie Sanders, them trying to say white people don't understand the oligarchy. Bernie and AOC do fight the oligarchy tour. White people are like, yeah, 99% versus the 1%. I understand this. So this is why I believe we really have to put pressure on these Democrats, Mike, because my fear is exactly what you said. They want another Biden as a stopgap measure in 2028, and they think that they'll be able to cobble up enough without realizing, nope, the restoration milquetoast centrism is just going to lead to the same Groundhog's Day cycle. And then you're
Yeah,
going to get a Dick Fuentes type candidate come out in 2032 who's
yeah.
just going to be outright white America, America first, America only. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, if the Democratic Party, which is our only lever that we have right now when it comes to political parties and a national level, continues on this path, you're going to get a milquetoast centrist stopgap in 2028, and then you're going to get a Nick Fuentes type character in 2032. That is my prediction. If you don't believe me, you're not paying attention and looking at the last 20 years. The final question I want to ask you is on immigration.
Yeah.
And you said that if there's overreach on immigration, these Latinos and a lot of Americans are going to jump ship. That seems to have proven out. You see what's happening in Charlotte, Portland, Chicago. America's like, I didn't vote for this shit. I voted for strong borders. I didn't vote for kids being zip tied.
Right.
Donald Trump in 1 year has made immigrants great again. The highest favorability ratings of immigrants are right now, folks, which is great. An amazing opportunity. Another wide open lane for Democrats to finally realize they can't stop punting on immigration like they have for 20 years. They have to come up with a bold, humane uh, immigration reform policy, and people are receptive to it. You have a compare and contrast, right? You have literally ICE agents terrorizing. This immigration policy has not made everything better. We have fewer immigrants of color coming to America for the first time in decades. Are people feeling better? Is the economy great again? No. All the data points are right there, Mike. It's right there in front of you. And plus, being Republican light has never worked. And then you also have the universe giving the example in the UK, where Starmer went Republican light on immigration, and it's hurting him, not helping him. on immigration, Mike, a generational opportunity for Democrats. Your take on what
Yeah,
they should be doing.
Waj, well put. In fact, it's more than a generational opportunity. Last time we did this was '86. We're going like a two-generational opportunity. It's been so damn long since this has been done. Yes, look, the overreach, and you and I have been talking about this for months now, and I was saying the party, there's going to be no winner on this. There's going to be a loser, and the loser is going to be the party that overreaches first. And Republicans can't help themselves; they will overreach, and they have. They have. In fact, they have overreached so much that these issues aren't even viewed as immigration now. They're viewed as military overreach because that's what it is. Like they've gone so damn far out to the right, there's no oxygen anymore. And they're going into Charlotte. Like they're just, these show of forces are not about immigration anymore. And the American public is being, repulsed by it. So what does all that mean? Look, I believe, and again, somebody who's worked on the immigration issue for 35 plus years, there is a unique opportunity for Democrats to finally start talking about in specifics the pathway to citizenship. This idea that the borders are going to be closed, fine. Trump got that. It's all locked up, whatever. What we need for economic purposes is an actual number, an actual plan. The abstract doesn't work anymore. Democrats will lose that in the abstract because unless they start putting specifics on paper, the Republicans will still go to this oldie but goodie and start calling them open borders advocates. So you have to say, here's what the plan is, maintain the border as it is, but what does the pathway actually look like? And here's why that's important, Waj. Again, I worked in Republican politics for 35 years. I have heard over and over and over again every week during those 35 years Republicans saying, I support legal, not illegal immigration. To which I would immediately respond, how many legal immigrants do you think the country should have? Not once in 35 years have I ever gotten an answer to that because they don't mean it. They don't
That's
mean
right.
it. They don't have a plan. They don't want any immigrants. They just say as long as it's legal versus illegal in a broken system, they won't do anything about it. So Democrats have always shied away because they thought, well, if we start putting out numbers, we're going to be looked as the open borders. The reality is the economy is so jacked up now with prices that from the agricultural level to the H-1B visa, highly educated tech worker level, we need more workers as a way to keep the economy going, as a way to pay for. Hey, excuse my crassness here, Waj, but wiping the asses of the old white people watching Fox News in homes, who are anti-immigrant that are only alive and sustaining their lives because of immigrant work. Like that's
That's right.
one of the great ironies. Their social security check is only being made whole by young, unskilled workers who will, in most parts, never even see that money. They're the most anti-immigrant. It's crazy. Like these old folks that are old Republicans and hooked up to their Fox News IV drips, the most anti-Republican group, are the ones that are literally the most reliant to keep them alive by immigrants. And so from that level to the high tech level, Donald Trump himself is saying we're going to have to do something on H-1B. We're going to lose our competitiveness very, very quickly if we keep with this militarization, if we keep driving people out, let alone not allowing people in. So sorry about the long diatribe, but there's a huge opening to have some courage to start defining what a pathway to citizenship actually looks like. The big cudgel has been taken out of your hand. The fear of the open border stuff is gone. Now start doing something aspirational. Get back into the economic discussions by talking about what this looks like in order to fix the economy, to have a pathway to citizenship, to be more humane and humanitarian than the Republicans are. You're already on good, strong, solid ground, not just on this issue, which is a rarity, by the way. It's very, very rare for Democrats to have higher public opinion approval ratings on immigration than Republicans. It's very rare, but that's where we're at. But keep in mind, they're on positive territory in basically every public policy and every political issue right now. How many times have you seen a political party out of power have more political power than the party in power? Like now is that moment. Learn how to win. Take a W. Start moving the ball down the field and run up some victories. And immigration is a great place to start with that.
And you need bold leadership, you need a bold vision, and you need champions and fighters who are willing to go 10 toes down on reformation, not restoration. And you have to be prepared that the establishment, and the establishment, Mike, I think it's important. Establishment includes Democrats and Republicans. The establishment includes the people who are tied and tethered to the oligarchy, the old way of things, whether it's due to race, whether it's due to comfort, whether it's due to money, whether it's due to their friends, right? Seniority. The people are done. Young people are done. Whether you like it or not, the truth is young people now more identify more as democratic socialists, where you have as many democratic socialists as MAGA. And if you just step back and stop hyperventilating for a second, why? Because they're like, the system sucks. The establishment sucks. I don't give a shit about Democrats or Republicans because they don't give a shit about me. I don't give a shit about the billionaires. They don't give a shit about me. I want something different. So now you have a wide open lane. This is generational opportunity. And this is why I'm going to stress it. It's up to us to push the Democrats, right? Because they can at least listen, to push them uh, to actually embrace this economic populist message, to lift everyone up and get immigration reform. You can do it all, folks.
Yes.
And we need to do this because we are suffering from generational damage. The damage that Trump and MAGA has done for all the experts that I've talked to, I'm sure you have as well, Mike, people don't realize generational damage has already been done. It's done. The question is it multi-generational damage? That's up to us. And Mamdani, you like him, you don't like him. What did he run on? Affordability. Muslim, brown, immigrant, eats with his hands. Oh my God. Democratic Socialist. New York said, I don't give a shit. I like his message. AOC, Latina, Democratic Socialist. Ugh. They're like, I don't care. She fights. Bernie, old man. I don't care. He fights, right? Even on the flip side, Donald Trump, what potential pedophile? Yeah, criminal. But he'll bring down the establishment. Sure. So wide open lane. He is weak. Epstein ain't going away. Economy is going to get worse. He's going to overreach on immigration. He's negative double digits on Epstein, negative double digits on the economy. According to some polls, he's negative double digits on the immigration. I think it's all going to get worse, Mike. As it gets worse, he gets more desperate. He's going to overreach on all these issues. I think, he's at 37. Let's see. My prediction, he goes under 35 by the end of December, which would be disaster. Do you think he'll get to 35? Am I overreaching?
No, I mean, when you say it that way, there's all the evidence is saying that you're right. I think it's very possible. We'll see if I think that could happen by January, February. But I mean, that's just picking at details. The fact that we're even talking about him hitting 35, I mean, Waj, you're exactly right. Donald Trump has had the hardest ceiling I've ever seen for a politician. He's never been at 50%. He also have a really strong, solid floor. His range is like 2 or 3 points in the low 40s. When you started talking about Trump hitting 35, like I was watching this on the Lincoln Project, and when I was doing all the data work, we never hit 35 in the depths of COVID, like when people were wheeling bodies out of overstacked hospitals and putting them in freezer trucks. I remember that. That was a real thing. He never hit 35. Is it possible? It's very possible. And like I said, once that happens, the rats are going to scurry off of the MAGA ship. They've got no choice. They've got to bail to save their own lives.
And folks, he's at 37 right now. So if you think I'm crazy, I don't think I am. I see Lev on. I'm going to invite him ahead of 2, and Mike Nellis is here. I'm going to join Mike for the first time tomorrow. I've invited Lev. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. The 1,600 people who tuned in. This is Mike Madrid. He's a man who goes over the numbers. He's been following these trends for 30 years. He's a co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Mike, shamelessly promote yourself and how people can read you.
Yeah, if you could follow me at The Great Transformation. I write about these topics all the time. You're going to get kind of a real analytical, deep dive look with data, polling, numbers. We'll do it county by county, especially as we head into the midterms. It's a really good follow. I bring a lot of analysts on that do campaigns for a living, and so you'll get a hopefully a unique perspective. Lev, I see you there. Good to see you, friend.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, I'll drop off now and give you guys some room to keep the
No,
conversation
man,
going.
thank you. Thanks, Mike. And again, Mike has been calling it. Mike called it. I had him on several months ago, and he said, just watch, Waj. If he overreaches on the economy, Trump overreaches on the economy and immigration, all these people freaking out about Latinos, they don't know what they're talking about. I've been following this for 30 years. These are Latinos for Trump. They're going to drop back to the 2016 numbers. And in the
Yeah.
past 2 weeks, they have dropped back to 2016 numbers. So if you just want to focus on one group, Democrats, Latinos, you can turn the tables by literally winning over that one group, and that one group alone can get you back the House and potentially even the presidency. But you can also get over young people, women, Asian Americans. It's right there in front of you, Democrats. Just trust the numbers. Thanks, Mike. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon,
Mike,
buddy.
guys. Talk soon.
Mike, keep fighting a good fight, Mike.
You too, brother. Keep hanging in there.
Lev, thank you so much for joining. I'm 4 minutes late. I was going to text you, but then I saw you had
No, it's
joined.
okay.
Lev and I were supposed to talk on the weekend. We were going back and forth, and Lev was telling me about the great freak out that's happening within the White House. For those who haven't paid attention, Epstein files, we've been saying it. Lev and I have been talking since the summer. This is his Achilles cankles. Folk, Donald Trump is freaked out. Donald Trump, Lev, let me put it this way. If you told me how not to behave, I would give you Donald Trump. If you told me how to show the world that you are guilty as F, I would give you Donald Trump and his behavior since the spring in what I have called the greatest political cover up in my lifetime in modern history, the Epstein scandal. Now he's turned on Thomas Massey, publicly mocked him in the most ugly way. Thomas Massey, regardless of what you think about his politics, remarried after his wife died, and he just mocked Tom Massey and his wife. And then he turned on Marjorie Taylor Greene. And surprise, surprise, Lev, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey are like, oh my God, when Donald Trump attacked us, we've been getting threats. Oh, no shit. That's what you've been doing for the past 4 years. You had no problem going after Democrats,
That's right.
Ilhan Omar, AOC, David Hogg, supporting the violent insurrectionists. And now when the shoe's on the other foot, huh? But his attack on Marjorie Taylor Greene and his attack on Massey is a sign of weakness, according to me. And they haven't flipped back. They're still standing strong. And now there's a massive fissure within MAGA. And Donald Trump is doubling down on the Justice Department, going after Obama. And now he's going after, Letitia James and James Comey and Bill Clinton. And you're seeing the Epstein file drip, drip, drip. Lev, talk to us about what you're hearing and your analysis of the great freak out over the past 3 days.
Yeah, no, it's a watch. It's been crazy. I haven't slept all 3 days. I've been on the phone back and forth. I like the way you call it the great freak out of of the White House because that's what you call it. I mean, he went from first. He went to try. He thought he no problem. He was going to get Lauren Boebert or Mace or Green to come back and not sign the petition. When he lost that, he started freaking out. We wrote about it. We spoke about it, that he started for 48 hours. He spent phone calls blasting at congresswomen, men, trying to threaten them, ask them favors. What do you call, you name it? And he started seeing the writing on the wall that there's an avalanche is coming, that he's not getting the votes that we've been talking about. And then he went to plan B, plan C. He went to calling the senators. Lindsey Graham got his team in work, called Thune. Thune actually, from what my sources are telling me, told him that he'll do everything possible to even not even put up a vote in the Senate to try to somehow block it, make it irrelevant. So,
Mm.
but then after making more calls, he started realizing that the pressure, that there were over 12 congressmen that I'm hearing, senators, excuse me, that were planning on flipping, and that Thune was not going to be able to hold the line. And that's when they decided to go nuclear and announce the contingency plan. That if you will take a look, I actually broke this 2-3 months ago, right when we first, me and you started talking about it in July, when we said keep an eye on the plan. And what was the plan? Is they were going to go attack the Clintons and some of the big names, but that was not the key. See, that's all just to get the media to run on it. The key is the strategical part. Is think what they just did. They went from in July 6th. What started this whole thing is they came out and said that there's no criminality. That's it. We're closing the investigation. Nobody did anything wrong. We've extensively viewed it. Five administrations looked into it. The Democrats did nothing wrong. Republicans did nothing wrong. Yes, Epstein is the only one. That's it. Done. Then the outcry. And all of a sudden now, they opened up the investigation. The investigation is not about convicting anybody. They're not going to, I want to stop. Clinton is not going to prison. There's no criminality. It's strategically put, and that's why, and we'll go over his tweet, it's strategically put to be able to now see what is going to get leaked out and what they want to give out for,
There you go.
as far as to counter the emails that linked that came out of the Epstein. So this is the plan that was put in effect. That's what we've been talking about. But then Donald Trump, like I say, can't keep it in his pants. Like he even in his tweet, that's why when he tweeted out yesterday, he said, "Yes, release the files," because what happened was he started getting pressure from Susie Wiles and. Russell Vaught and Stephen Miller, the people really they're trying to push their Project 2025 agenda, and they started to see that everything is slipping, all of their plans. I mean, that they're not going to be because now they're having a unified front going against Trump with the Epstein files. So they basically said, go out there. You already have the plan. Bondi's already the scapegoat. Bondi's going to take the hit, just like she took the hit for closing it. Now she's going to take, and you just go out there and say, yes, release the files. Pam Bondi's the greatest. We've given you, look, you gave it Clinton. We gave you, Larry Summers. We're giving you stuff more than play that whole thing. But even when he did that, he wrote down that and he mentioned it, whatever legally, whatever the terminology is in there. So he can't keep it in his pants. But that's the plan, because what I'm hearing, Waj, and this is why I think this is tremendous, and I think that he's not going to be able, and Pam Bondi, and I got some news for you that we're going to talk about in a second also, but I'm hearing that we're going to get over 290 in the House. That it's and it's we might have a double majority if that's how this is picking up speed. And if we get 2/3 in both houses, he loses the veto power. So this is why there's a lot going on right now, that this is why all of a sudden, and he understands that, and he can't go to war. And that's why he came out and basically, so now when tomorrow we have a tremendous avalanche, he's going to try to take credit for it by saying, I told you, everybody unite, open up. So, so this is what's happening in this weekend, what I've been dealing with and what's going on. But the key to it that we're going to talk about in a second later on is Dan Bongino, and
I know we've been on
we're
you've been on Benjuno for a while. Before we get to Benjuno, just to recap and kind of parcel out what you just said right now. Um, I think Republicans realize it's just a matter of time. There are too many cuts. There's too many leaks. Specifically, the big leaks are the Epstein estate, which has documents that they've already sent over to House Democrats. House Democrats have not released the entirety of the tranche of documents. All right. So there's a lot of more damning stuff. And it's totally damning against Donald Trump because he partied with Epstein for 10 years. And Epstein said that he was Donald Trump's closest friend. And Michael Wolff has told me and others, that he has seen photos given to him by Epstein with young girls partying with Donald Trump, with young girls sitting on his lap, young girls pointing at a wet stain at his crotch and smiling, right? So I think that stuff's there. We have the survivors themselves that are now more and more emboldened. Thankfully, they feel like people listen to them. They have stories, thousands of them, right? You also then have Ghislaine Maxwell. Her ass ain't gonna be in prison. She saw George Santos get pardoned. She saw a CZ, a Binance get pardoned. You think she's gonna be sitting in jail forever? Who do you think, folks, leaked the birthday book to the Wall Street Journal? That's Ghislaine Maxwell. That's those three leaks she has to plug. The fourth leak is that these dumbasses and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are so stupid, reckless, that they allowed thousands of FBI agents access to the Epstein files for the sole purpose of redacting Trump's name. And they were all operating off of the same Excel sheet that was accessible to all of them. So some of them took photos, probably copy pasted, and they're whistleblowers there, right? And then on this issue, since they've radicalized the Trump base for the past 10 years with QAnon and Pizzagate, their base wants the release of the Epstein files. They were promised it. Pam Bondi promised it. Kash Patel promised it. Dan Bongino promised it. They riled up their base with these conspiracy theories. And now over 75% of Americans, I think the number probably has increased, want a demand to the release of the Epstein files. So to me, that's just the dam cracking, cracking, cracking. This is them putting scotch tape on the dam, Lev. It's just a matter of when. And now you're seeing, Lev, and it's so disgusting. It's so shameful. And thankfully, it's not working. You see Republicans and Megyn Kelly trying to shift. Well, is 15 really pedophilia?
That's
It,
crazy. Yeah,
I'm not even making this up, folks.
I
It's,
know. It's
I mean,
crazy.
it's not pedophilia. It's not like a 5-year-old. That's what Megyn Kelly said. It's not like a 5-year-old. It's like barely legal. No, it's illegal. 15 is illegal. And Michael Wolff has said that, Epstein and Donald Trump, they chased models. That's what they did. That was how you proved that you were an alpha male in the 90s. And the age of the models was ages 14 and 19. And there was a powerful ad that came out during the weekend of these former survivors holding the photos of themselves as girls when they were raped by Epstein and Maxwell and probably other powerful men. And they said 16, 16, 14, 15, 17, 16. All this is going to come out. And furthermore, before I give it back to you, Lev, just to bring the receipts, Donald Trump has openly talked about, like the sexualized comments about his daughter, sexualized comments about teenagers. It's all there, Lev, right? So this is just a matter of drip, 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 drip when. But what's interesting is speaking about Dan Bongino, is Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi rode the MAGA wave and promised their base they would release the Epstein files. And then in the summer, we all saw them come out white faced, ashen, eyes bugged out because I think they saw the files and realized, oh shit, our king and daddy is probably a rapist. And then they did a complete 180. They did a complete 180. And ever since they've done the complete 180, Dan Bongino has been quiet as a mouse fart. So talk, and you've been on it. You said, watch the Dan Bongino space. Tell us about Bongino.
So that's one of the reasons why I even set up my GoFundMe is because what I'm planning on doing, Wash, and because I've been screaming about Bongino, nobody's acting on it. So what I'm planning on doing is doing a little differently than most people out there. My plan is simple: is I'm going to do to them what we basically did, and I'm going to, and part of that is I'm not going to go out there and debate policies. I'm not going to go out there and talk about try to turn these mega into. I'm going to go out there and expose them, and I'm going to go out there and put them back in there because most of those people never voted before Donald Trump ever. And if a no vote is just as good as a vote, a no vote for Donald Trump is just as good for a vote for us. And Dan Bongino is going to be a big part of what's about to take place because I'm not going to allow him to stay quiet anymore. I'm working with some groups behind the scenes where we are going to put a major campaign on. I'm going to Washington, D.C. We are going to basically find them. We're going to question. We are not going to allow him to hide. We are going to expose and allow and go people around him, go and make sure that this gets a lot more attention than what it's getting because the second, and it's not just Dan Bongino, like you said, because there's already a lot of whistleblowers that are ready to. All it takes is that first to crack, as that dam is going to be coming out because there's a lot of people that already know. But the first step before we get there is we need to right now, and that's what I wrote in my letter, and I think everybody should do today and tomorrow is every single person should be on the phones, sending the emails to your representatives, to your senators, and making sure that if we could get, because the first two things, if we could get 290, 2/3 in the majority in the House, which is tomorrow, that's the first step. Then the next step, if we could then do that in the Senate, we take away a big part. We put them in a corner where then they are left only with one ace, and that is the DOJ and the FBI, and that's when Bongino and all of these players will come in to break that whole thing up. So we have a plan of how to break it up. We just have to keep pushing. We just have to keep calling, and you guys have to just keep doing what you're doing.
And how desperate? Let me put it this way: from what you know and what we know, but from what you've heard, how desperate is Trump right now?
Extremely. I mean, I just looking at him from knowing him, you could tell even in his movements and his talk, even the way he talks to reporters, like, he's very agitated. People around him are saying that he's snappy. He's I mean, he's pissed. He's pissed also because he's losing he lost the control of the House and the Senate, really, because he's starting to people that are turning on him, because he got so used to where they basically he called and they agreed, like with the big ugly bill and all of that type of stuff. The way he bullied and he kept pushing it through. All of a sudden, just like any bully, when a bully, all of a sudden, it's like even when you watch these movies, when the bully all of a sudden comes out there, and now there's that one guy, but there's 300 kids standing behind that little kid, and he's standing by himself. That's what Trump is starting to see. That's it's not now. It's not one Thomas Massey. Now it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now you got Lauren Boebert. Now you got all. So, and those are his hardcore stars. So just imagine all of these, like I keep saying, these congressmen and women that you don't even know their names. They're in the small little, but they're looking and saying, if Marjorie Taylor Greene could do it, if Boebert could do it, we're going to do it. And that's what you're seeing. And I spoke to Don Bacon, and he told me that you're going to see the floodgates open up.
Yeah, and remember we talked about this with Swalwell, I think 3 weeks ago, where he tweeted that a Republican colleague allegedly texted him and said that it's just a matter of when these files get released, and once they do, the house of cards will fall on MAGA. Like it's over. It's the Epstein files that will do it, and we haven't even talked about the economy and the overreach on immigration. It's all bad, folks. The economy is going to get worse. The trade war is terrible. Americans have finally figured out that tariffs are taxes. They didn't vote for this. They didn't vote for high grocery prices, high meat prices. Yeah, they got rid of immigrants, and so what? The economy still sucks. And now they have ICE agents terrorizing Charlotte, North Carolina, and Portland, and going after
Crazy.
white people and zip tying kids. They're like, what the F? And now there's war against Venezuela, and they're like, whoa, whoa, this isn't America first. And now they're saying, it's really interesting. It's not just America first now. The new iteration of MAGA, folks, is America first, America only. America first, America only. So you're going to see a lot more anti-Semitism come out in the open.
By the way, Waj, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's also important to notice. Did you see how Trump protected Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson? How he basically didn't condemn that? Did you see that
No, I
one?
didn't see that. When was that?
Oh, he right before he got while I'm saying, you could even take a look. He right before he got on that, he was one of his on X. He was giving an interview, and they asked him about the Tucker Carlson interview of Nick Fuentes. So he basically said, well, first of all, he said, Nick came there with another guest of mine. He brought him there, which was Kanye West, and he goes, listen, then he also started, but not condemning, not saying anything bad. And then as far as Tucker, he said, me and Tucker are great. We have a great relationship. And Tucker, should, he could invite any. I mean, basically I mean, if you listen to that conversation and if you listen to the way he responds, I mean, I was blown. It was worse than when he said there's good people on both sides. This
Well, this
was,
is, I just found it. I just found it.
go ahead, go
It
ahead, go ahead.
was Palm Beach International Airport,
Yep, yep.
6:53 p.m. ET yesterday.
Right before.
Uh, Here are two quotes. Question from someone from the press. Tucker Carlson recently had a friendly interview with anti-Semite Nick Fuentes. What role do you think Tucker Carlson should play in the Republican Party going forward? Quote, I found him to be good. He said good things about me over the years. I think he's good. Will you let me finish my statement? You're the worst. You're with Bloomberg, right? I don't even know why they have you. Here's another question. Okay, here we go. Quote, we've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you cannot tell them who to interview. If he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him. Reporter, you were with Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago. He dined with Nick Fuentes and Kanye West 2.5 years ago. And 2.5 years ago, I was on top of this. I was on top of
Yep.
this, and the corporate media just like, whatever, no big deal. I'm like, no, folks, this is a huge deal. The fact that he is voluntarily dining with Nick Fuentes, and then people are like, do you condemn him? Do you condemn him? Do you condemn him? And he said the same thing. I don't know who he is. What, huh? And then I believe it was The Guardian. The Guardian was the only outlet that followed up on this and said that the reason why Donald Trump 2.5, almost 3 years ago, didn't condemn Nick Fuentes is he realized that Nick Fuentes represents a part of his base. Now you fast forward 2.5, 3 years. Here you go. Last night, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, open neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes, white nationalist Nick Fuentes,
Gropers.
anti-Semite Nick Fuentes, Groyper Nick Fuentes, having a huge fight with Project 2025 and Heritage Foundation, because Kevin Roberts came out a couple of weeks ago and said, yeah, you want me to condemn Tucker Carlson? Nah. And that's caused huge friction within the conservative movement right now at the Heritage Foundation. And Donald Trump just doubled down and said, Tucker, Nick Fuentes, neo-Nazi, a person who praises Hitler. Okay, because that's the base. So this is
That's thank
another
you.
major fissure.
Thank
This is
you.
another major fissure that's happening.
Absolutely. I mean, watch this is what he's trying to keep, because if we could get these people to realize that Trump is not MAGA, Trump is not America for Trump is not for them, Trump is a traitor, they will not vote. They will get pissed at Trump, but you can't try to convince them to vote for Democrat, because that triggers them right away to automatically vote for Trump. So that's the strategic part, that if everybody got to do a little strategic, someone do it here, someone doing there. My strategic is to go inside and do to them what we did. Do a little bit of how they send in the SEALs before the everybody. Well, that's what me and my team, we're gonna be the SEALs. We're gonna go in there and we're gonna cause a little ruckus inside of MAGA world internally, and let them understand, open their eyes of who Donald Trump is, and basically go
Divide
back
and
into your
conquer.
caves.
They
Divide and
say divide
conquer.
and conquer.
Yeah,
You,
go back into your caves. There's another interesting part that I want you to take a look at, that I'm looking into right now. Watch that, this is going to be big, because in this Epstein dump, the one thing that I'm talking about is what Trump is really scared about is, yes, he's scared about the women, he's scared about the business, but what he's really scared about is for people to find out what Russia really has on him, because we now know for a fact that Epstein was working with the Russians, giving information on Trump. But also, what I realized by just going through, and we were just on with Dean Blundell, and we were going through some of the emails, and I realized there's an email there, the blowing Bubba
yeah.
email. But
Oh,
and everybody was talking about the blowing Bubba. But what's interesting about that email is, I'm not sure either Mark, his brother, or Epstein is writing the email, is saying, did Bannon give that picture to Putin? So basically, we now have our understanding that Bannon has a relationship with Putin in 2018 directly. This has never been talked about. I mean, we spoke about Manafort, we spoke about others, but now it's placing basically that Bannon, who's having conversations with Epstein, where Epstein and his brother, where he has no reason to lie, has no reason to make it up, is saying, they're just, whatever the picture is. But the question is, the more I think important part, and not the picture, yeah, the picture is whatever it is, but I think the important part is that they're discussing, they're wondering if Bannon handed it over to the Russians. So was
mm,
Bannon so now, the interesting part was Bannon giving information to the Russian. I mean, how many people were giving information to the Russian, and what deals were being made, and what compromise do they really have on Trump? Because that is why, and that's why I've been saying, Witkoff is the point person to all of this. He knows the dirt. He's been with Trump for 50 years or so, since the beginning. He used to be his lawyer, and he's the only one Trump trusts. That's why you don't have people like Rubio dealing with Putin, and Kirill Dmitriev. You don't have people like Hegseth. You don't have any administrator. You have people like Steve Witkoff with no experience. Why? Because they basically, and think the other thing, I'm connecting the dots. Every time Trump came out and spoke really nasty about Putin, what happened was the first move. If you go do a little history, Steve Witkoff would be summoned to the Kremlin. I mean,
that's right.
literally
Yeah.
summoned to the
Yep.
Kremlin. And then right afterwards, there would be a whole new narrative that will come out. So what I'm hearing from my sources, I can't go into facts, but when I do, I will. This will be huge. But there is compromise, but it's not the compromise that we were talking about back in 2016, when everybody was saying, yeah, not the P tape. This is not P tape compromise stuff. This is financial stuff. This is actual Epstein stuff that has to do with underage models and stuff like that. This is stuff that he did not in Russia, but stuff that he did in the United States, unknowing to him that he was being monitored, being followed. And then when he became president, people around him leaked all of this information to the Russians. And we're starting to see, it wasn't only Epstein, it was also now Bannon. There's a link,
Yeah.
and others. There's a lot more why he is panicking right now. Watch that the media, nobody's connecting the dots, and that's why I
I mean,
wanted to give it to you.
it's two threads that this corporate media doesn't really follow up on, is the financial thread. the money thread, which connects Epstein to all these billionaires and potentially to foreign countries, but also then potential foreign intelligence, right? Because what
Yep.
we know is that Ehud Barak, who was the former prime minister of Israel, also the former head of IDF, met Epstein many times, and Dropsite a couple of days ago had the emails that showed that Ehud Barak's aide stayed at the Epstein apartment. Totally normal. And the two countries that keep coming up as having potential ties with Epstein, and we still don't know the ties, both when it comes to uh, Epstein giving them information and or being used by those two countries. Also, the financial threat, it's Russia and Israel. Those are the two countries that keep coming up again and again and again. And furthermore, as we know, all these powerful people that apparently visited Epstein's island or his New York penthouse where Epstein raped girls. We also know that Epstein had video cameras everywhere. So if you're a foreign country and you want someone compromised and you want to use someone, Lev, what better way than to use Epstein and the blackmail that he has on these people? And also, I want to remind people, because Zev always reminds us this, is that Trump and Epstein both opened up an account with Deutsche Bank on the same day. And Deutsche Bank has been the primary vehicle for Russian oligarchs to do some shady, shady stuff. I would love to see those two threads, the financial thread and also the thread to foreign countries. I think they're connected.
The one thing I would like to see is for the media to stop with the bullshit. I mean, I wanted to throw up today when I heard breaking news, CNN, Trump did a 180. I felt like I'm in a wonderland, like this was a Russia all over again. Trump did a 180. He now wants the release. What happened? What changed? Are you kidding me? Stop with the shit. What 180? Like what I mean, this like everybody, I mean, my 12-year-old understands what's going on. Like, I mean, this is the and he knows it, he plays it, yeah, but I'm telling you, yeah, you're right. The threads, the financial thread, and the SP, I mean, being compromised. Look, let, we need to, I think, as a country, get past certain things where we're saying why. I mean, I mean, we already understand that just like Epstein was more than just a pedophile. We could see it in the conversation. We could see it in the email dumps. We could see it in the criminal. I mean, we could. But the other thing I want you to also think that's very suspicious is in 2018, end of 2018, you're seeing these email threads of how Epstein A with Wolf is talking about how he could has stuff over the president of the United States. You see Epstein talking about how he could give the Russians information about Trump that could nail him. You see him talking about, the memes sending back and talking about the ban and give this info. So you see Epstein being heavily involved towards the end of 2018 involved in president somehow in another through different sources of blackmailing or extorting or controlling Trump. You see this in a different with different people. What happens literally 6 months later? He gets arrested by Bill Barr, same as me, literally, but not to an open investigation, but to shut him up.
There you go.
This is the lie. So there's a lot more that Trump is trying to hide and protect than just some pictures or some, that what's it called, and that's why I think you're 100% right. This is more than just financial. I think the chain of worldwide. I mean, and that is why, folks, it's been covered up by 5 administrations because this is some and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but because this is a volcano that needs to erupt already, and we need to clean this up. And it doesn't matter, blue, red, green. I don't give a shit who you are. Let's get these. I mean, some of them probably already passed away. I mean, think about 5 administrations. You're talking about decades of like
A lot of them are alive, Lev. A lot of them
yeah,
are alive.
yeah.
Leon Black's
That's what I'm
alive.
saying. Yep, yep,
Leslie Wexner is alive. Bill
yep,
Barr is alive. Steve
yep.
Bannon's alive. Peter
Yep.
Thiel's alive.
Yep.
Elon Musk
Yep.
is alive.
Yep.
Donald
Yep.
Trump is alive.
Donald
Ghislaine
Trump is alive.
Maxwell's
Yep.
alive.
Yep.
Ehud Barak is alive. And I
Yep.
think you're right. It goes back to the rot, the corrupt that I was talking to Mike Madrid about. And you're seeing it's going to be tied in directly to, I think, this message of the 1% screwing over the rest of us, the rich and the powerful and the billionaires thinking that they can rape girls and get away with it, them covering up each other's sins, them covering up the Epstein files, them going to the island and having sex on Lolita Express, which was the name of Epstein's private jet, where he claims that Melania and Donald Trump had sex. Them trying to have all of our cakes and our crumbs and getting permanent tax cuts for the rich as the rest of us starve to death. There was a Ultimate Fighter, a UFC fighter, and UFC, for those who've been following sports, I've said UFC is an in-kind donation to Donald Trump and MAGA. Like literally, it's just an extension of MAGA. And UFC is, sadly, for better or worse, is very influential. And Dana White was invited by Donald Trump on election night to come to the stage. We're an idiocracy. The president of UFC was invited onto the stage, where then he thanked Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and all these other losers for helping Donald Trump win. You're seeing a crack in this, where I don't know if you saw this. I'm so glad this fighter said this. There was a UFC fighter who was asked, I think just a couple of days ago, Donald Trump has proposed hosting UFC fights on the White House lawn. And Brandon Royval, he said this. And I think this is important because I think it's all connected to what you're saying, the growing rage against the billionaires, the rapists, the criminals, those who just look at us like we're just dirt or trash or property. He says, it's like to fight in front of them seems like some effing Hunger Games type of effing shit. I don't give a F to fight in front of some effing billionaires and rich people that could give a shit less about me. And that was one of these public breaks from between MAGA and UFC. And a lot of people are like, yeah, why should I go fight to the death in front of billionaires who don't give a shit about me?
Like the Coliseum.
Like, exactly. And this is folks, if you don't follow UFC, I'm telling you, it is in-kind donation to MAGA. Like, they worship Trump, right? So the fact that you're seeing now, he's not the only one. There's another MAGA fighter, MMA fighter, might as well call him a MAGA fighter, who came out and said, I'm done with Donald Trump, right? So you're seeing this, people need to connect the dots. I think, folks, again, I know I sound like a broken record. Broligarchy, the 1%, the 1%, the 1%. If you can connect Epstein to the broligarchy, you can push to an economic message. You can push for affordable health care. You can push for immigration reform. You can push for accountability. It's not just Epstein. What we've seen is it's an entire cabal of powerful, wealthy men and some women who raped girls for, like you said, 20 plus years. And I will also say this, Lev, in the summer, Nancy Pelosi was asked about the Epstein files, and I keep receipts. And MSNBC asked her about it, Chris Jansing. And you know what Nancy Pelosi said? Well, people care about, kitchen table issues. This is just a distraction. And I'm like, why would Nancy Pelosi, who knows the numbers and the polls, see that this is a winning political issue for Democrats and then say, well, this is just a distraction? And to me, I have no proof. To me, she was probably trying to cover up from some powerful Democrats who are,
5 administrations.
who are probably in these files. It's a big club. You ain't in it. And I think the people are waking up. And I agree with you, Lev. I think this is the story. I've been saying it for a while. I think it's not just Epstein and Trump. I think the more you pull at this thread, it will unravel, and you're going to get a lot of spiders caught in this. A lot of folks have questions that need to be answered, and drip, 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 drip. This guy, he can't escape it, and I think he's going to get really, really desperate. I have a question for you because MAGA world. Why is Pam Bondi, Cash Patel, and Dan Bongino, have they decided to sink with the ship?
Well, Pam Bondi and Cash Patel, yes. Dan Bongino, no. That's why they, Pam Bond. Cash Patel is one of those, he's been he doesn't even know what world he's in right now. He's traveling private jets. He has a girlfriend. He's trying to fix his eye.
Lev's not making this up, folks. He's using taxpayer dollars to take that $60 million jet to go meet his honeypot girlfriend.
Yeah. So Cash Patel is, that's what I'm saying to you. Pam Bondi, she's all in. Yeah, once she took the hit with closing that, because that was the first. Once she took the hit it with closing it. Now she's like, there's, she's down with the ship. Bangino, that's a joker that I think we're going to be able to exploit. I think he just needs to we need to put some pressure on him. I think we need to put some cameras in front of him. We need to get some people that are associated around him, that are work with him, that, know him, and get some stuff to come out because, I think we need him on the record. Let him come out and let him say that he supports Trump and close it. Let him say something. He hasn't been on the record since the day he left the office. So, for somebody that's been so vocal about it, I think we need to have him go on the record and say what does he feel, especially being the second in command of the FBI and somebody that saw the records and knows what's going on. And even to the fact that ask him why do you agree that there should be an investigation opened up into the Clintons? I mean, anything. I mean, there's no questions. I mean, just let's ask anything. There's no questions being asked, and the media is around there. So I know there's a lot going on. I know the media is all over the place. They try to chase that shiny next story, but we have a plan. Just like me and you out here, and others fighting the fight, exploiting there. But we're gonna take it to the ground. We're gonna go out there, and I think the next year you're gonna hear a lot of interesting stuff. Because remember, the one thing I kept trying to tell everybody, even the investigators, when I was cooperating with the House Intelligence Committee and testifying, I was saying the one thing about you gotta understand is there's no loyalty in any of that group.
Mm.
They are all in their separate little quarters. It's like Bannon and Rudy and what's her name, Laura Loomer and Tucker Carlson. There's
And they're
no
turning on each other now.
that's why, because there's no they were always it's because it's they try to get Trump's attention. They try to go even more wackier, even more crazier, even more. That's why you see, the two governors who are the two main idiots constantly going out there and outdoing themselves, Abbott and DeSantis. They just if Abbott goes and says I'll deport 100 people, DeSantis will take a plane with 200 and send them to New Hampshire. You know what I'm saying to you? It's like they try to outdo, and then and that's the group of people. So, but it's I could tell you one thing that a lot of people are realizing and that he is off the rails. A lot of people are starting to realize that he was never about America first. It was always about himself. A lot of people are starting to realize the money and the bitcoins and all of that. I'll even tell you another thing. Like I spoke to a lot of some of these big Bitcoin guys, and they're really scared. Like right now because they're understanding that once Trump is another year, once the Democrats, once real people take control, once there's a real DOJ, I mean, all of these people making millions and billions of dollars in Bitcoin. I mean, investigations are going to open because regarding you guys, everybody needs to understand something. For every person that makes money in Bitcoin, somebody loses money in
It's
Bitcoin.
a big
It's
Ponzi
it,
scheme.
it's it's
It's
it's
a Ponzi.
it's it's one it's there's no other way. So you're hearing about this. So there's a lot of people that are starting to get worried and like that this wave is not going to last forever, and it's not like so. That's why I keep saying we just got to keep the pressure on. We got to keep the pedal to the metal. We got to keep the first things first is make sure you spread the message. Becoming free subscribers is the number one thing we always talk about because that builds the community, that gives the message because three, four people, three, four people, and eventually the whole country is understanding what's going on because the media is not doing it. It's people, independent journalists like Waj, they're out here, they're breaking these. I mean, he's out here literally every time I turn on Substack, Waj is interviewing somebody. I don't know how you do it. I don't know. Amazing and it's every different subject. And it's great because he's keeping people informed. So that's why it's important. So that's why I say right now is the time that we, like I said, keep the pedal to the metal more than ever. Do not, no matter what, he's going to try to do everything. He might invade Venezuela. He might don't let him get, right now, we have a unity. Right now, the country is united. and we're united with we want to know why you're covering up for this pedophiles, what's in those Epstein files. And until we get to the bottom of it, we don't let it go. And that's how we take our democracy back. And then we could be at each other's throats talking about policy, agreeing, because, at the end of the day, that's what America's great, because right after that, we'll be grabbing drinks together at a ball game and laughing.
I hope so, inshallah. I hope so, folks. But we need to keep up the pressure, and it's going to be a long walk. The damage has been generational. We have
Yeah.
to reform and rebuild, but there's cracks. And as Lev is saying, because Lev and I are masochists, we follow this so you don't have to. Laura Loomer and Ben Shapiro are against Nick Fuentes, and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens is against now MAGA and doing her conspiracy theories, and Tim Dillon and some of the bro comedians are walking away from Donald Trump, and Joe Rogan is like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be terrorizing people, and people are realizing it's hurting their bottom line. And we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's horrible, by the way. She's terrible. Use her as an instrument, but no, she's terrible. Her and Massey, use them. Let them divide and conquer. So what the British did: weaken them, weaken them, weaken them from every angle: the economic angle, the overreach angle when it comes to ICE, and especially Epstein. Epstein is his Achilles cankel. He cannot escape Epstein. The ghosts and sins of his past are threatening to bring him and MAGA down. I think they eventually will. It is our job to keep up the pressure on him, but also the Democrats and the corporate America and the establishment who, as Lev said, man, it's been 5 administrations. A lot of powerful people. A lot of powerful people wanted to protect themselves. And inshallah, hopefully these names will be come out to light. Lev, shamelessly promote yourself.
Folks, this is our home, Substack. Levery members, please subscribe. If you can, become paid subscribers. This is what we do. And, we have the GoFundMe set up. It's been doing incredible for all of you. God bless you. We already are looking to hire some teams. I'll be giving you updates as we go along. But the first step is we're trying to get to Washington, D.C. to really cause some havoc to Donald Trump. So whatever your support, God bless you. Thank you. Whatever you have left, I know Waj has like 12,000 kids, and he's never, he's always
I have
around.
800. You have 12,000. I have 800 kids. Lev has 12,000 kids, and we're terrible capitalists. Lev took everything is free. Give some money if you can. If you can't, at least subscribe and spread the good word. Today was a supersized episode. For those nearly 2,800 people joining us, the first half we had Mike Madrid, co-founder of the Lincoln Project, former Republican. I think we have two former Republicans. It's important. And Mike really loves the numbers and the data and really digs down into the data and backs up what Lev is saying with the latest data that shows the cracking support among Latinos, young voters, even among some MAGA voters over Epstein, economy and immigration. And then Lev here comes in and tells you about what's happening within the Trump administration and within MAGA, and how Dan Bongino, he might be the weak link. Lev has been saying it since the summer. He says, look at Bongino. Bongino might be the weak link, and you're seeing some of these rats flee the ship. I think we should make their lives as uncomfortable as possible. I want to remind people how terrible MTG is and Candace Owens is. They're all going to try to flee the ship. Flee the ship. They will. This is how the town works. Everyone fails up, but just make it a bit uncomfortable for them. Folks, thank you for watching. 2,800 people. This will be up later on my Substack and Lev Substack. For those who missed it, without paywall, be kind to each other, be informed, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Lev. Talk
Thanks.
to you soon.
Take care.